Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Wasn't Worth It, the video game review podcast brought to you by SharcTank Media. I'm Tim.
And I'm Dane.
And yes, you are, Dane. Dane.
That I am.
What game did we play, Dane?
So this time around, we played Wrack, an arcade-style first-person shooter developed by Final Boss Entertainment, which you can grab on Steam for about $15. Wrack feels a bit like the love child of Doom and Borderlands. The gameplay and level design screams old-school FPS like Doom or Quake or even the original Wolfenstein 3D, but the style of the game is fully cel-shaded, with a bit of humor squeezed into the dialogue. And there's also a thick layer of comic book slathered on. It's definitely an interesting combination. And speaking of combinations, one thing that does set Wrack apart from others is the combo system, where the game rewards you for killing as many enemies as you can in a short period of time. You could say the objective is to rack up a lot of points while racking your enemies.
Whoa!
Okay. Tim, what did you think about Wrack?
Well, I was pretty excited for Wrack. I used to play a lot of old-school first-person shooters, particularly Duke Nukem, but also Doom and Quake and Wolfenstein, and pretty much everyone that existed, I at least gave it a try,
Sure.
Pirated it or something. Coming into the game, I thought it looked really cool, which was exciting. I liked the cel-shaded art and everything,
Sure.
And it did remind me of games like Doom. But there was just, I don't know, so many issues, severe frame rate drops at times. I couldn't get the level editor to work at all. The jumping puzzles in the game were utterly frustrating. It wasn't very satisfying to kill enemies. It didn't have the... It borrowed too many things that modern first-person shooters have moved away from for good reason, I feel, anyway, in my opinion.
Sure.
And the game just, it looked cool, but I didn't have any fun with it. Honestly, there were a few parts, even the part that was supposed to be especially fun, like racking up all those combos, and I was playing on the hardest difficulty, so I was expecting some challenge, and it wasn't really that hard. In fact, I beat one of the bosses on my first try.
Yeah.
On the hardest difficulty. That shouldn't happen in a game, particularly a game that's supposed to be old school, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The game for me just fell flat. I don't know what else to say. I just had very little fun, and there were a lot of gripes I have with it, and it's not worth the money for me.
Well, I personally thought Wrack was all right. I have to say, I feel like anybody who grew up enjoying games like Doom and Quake would love this game, or at least that was my thought, because the level designs in particular stood out to me. The level designs felt like an homage to those games, but still kind of managed to feel original too. Just the labyrinths, the winding hallways that led to open areas full of enemies, platforming puzzles. You said that the jump puzzles and whatnot were frustrating. I thought that they were kind of fun. They definitely were challenging. Every one of the harder jump puzzles, I definitely died the first time, but then had a good time kind of taking my time to get through them.
Yeah, we'll get to it later, but my biggest gripe relates to that, but I'll get to that when we get to the in-depth analysis.
Yeah, but, just like the detail, the lava or the acid beneath you, maybe it was nostalgia for me, but it really did remind me of the old school first-person shooters, which I seriously just haven't played in such a long time, so it was really a good throwback. I think it was made with sort of a love for classic first-person shooters. You can tell that the people who made it had to have been big fans. But I was disappointed by a few things. I thought the character designs, both enemies, the enemies you were shooting and killing, as well as the main characters, were pretty bad. Just super unoriginal.
Very disappointing.
Yeah, and not just the designs themselves, but the artwork depicting them was not very good.
Yeah.
I apologize to the artist. And additionally, the music, while it definitely sounded like a brushed up version of something from Doom or Quake, it was really cheesy and repetitive. And I get what they were going for, but I got tired of it really fast.
Which is interesting because it's the guy who did the original Doom music.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it just I was so underwhelmed by it because I was like, oh, they got the guy who did the original audio, that's so awesome. And I was just like, wow, this sounds like something from the 90s.
Well, it does sound like something from the 90s,
worst way possible.
Yeah, and I know that's the point, but they didn't do it well.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know what else to say about it. Yeah, so and one other complaint I have about it is that there are only 4 guns in the entire game. There's also a sword, but other than the sword, there are 4 guns that I could tell. There was a pistol, a shotgun, a plasma machine gun type thing, and a bazooka.
A plasma rifle, which had an arc, which was annoying.
I thought the arc was, it had its uses, but and then there's the bazooka, and that's it.
Yep.
That's done. That's all the guns, and that was a pretty big letdown. But I say gameplay reigns over all the superficial stuff that I didn't like. I personally think for $15, Wrack is worth it, but really only if you're in it, to feel like you're playing a classic first-person shooter. Because the level designs, I thought that those are the most impressive aspect of the game, personally. And the game's fully moddable. I mean, you mentioned that you couldn't get the level editor to work, which is, I could see how that would be
and that was a huge disappointment to me, because I used to play with the level editor in Duke Nukem 3D. I was really excited to be able to play with a level editor but like the interface for the Duke Nukem editor was abysmal. You know what I mean? So I was really excited to play with like a modern, new user interface and everything, and a user-friendly level editor and everything.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get it to work. It said it can't find the directory that Wrack was installed in, which is dumb because Wrack ran just fine. So obviously it knew where Wrack was installed, and even when I pointed to it, it couldn't find it. I looked online couldn't find anyone with the same error. I reinstalled Wrack. I did everything I could to get it to work, and it just didn't.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Like, I personally don't have any interest in modding or designing levels, but I just figured that being a feature adds to the value. And I saw that the modding community seems pretty decent. There's a Steam Workshop, and there's levels and campaigns and stuff. So, I mean, that's cool, and that definitely adds to the value, in my opinion, even if it doesn't particularly add to the value for me personally. But it's just something worth mentioning. But, yeah, I mean, we can get a little bit more into the game for anybody who's interested in hearing some more specifics.
Well, I do want to say that I guess I was a little too negative in my summary of the game. I did enjoy some things.
Sure.
Like you said, the level design was neat. It did really remind me of old school games like that.
Yeah, especially like the fact that thereuld be like a blue door and a yellow door, and you have to like go through one sort of mazy kind of thing to get to how you unlock the blue door. Kind of like in some of those old school games, they used a lot of keys. There were a lot of doors that required different colored keys.
Key cards.
Yeah.
And I think what made that disappointing to me was what you touched on before, was the disappointing enemy design.
Yeah.
The enemy design was so lackluster. Every single enemy except the bosses was a slowly walking toward you enemy that either blew up in your face or was shooting at you.
Yeah, it was either... There was like 3 types of enemies that you just saw a ton of, and it was either these little spider robots that crawl around on the floor, these lizard soldier dudes, lizard security guard dudes, who are like humanoids, humanoid lizards with little guns, or orbs that just kind of float in the air. And the bullets that they shoot at you are these really crappy looking little particles.
Yeah, slow moving laser bullets that you can dodge. There were times in the game where it was almost like a first person bullet hell, where you're just like dodging bullets left and right,
which can be fun.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was so disappointing because you build up those combos and you get these finishers.
Yeah.
But, like, the finisher for the shotgun was so poor. Like, there was no feedback about where it hit. There was no animation for it hitting the wall or anything. I didn't even know why I was missing with it at first. The finisher on the pistol shook the screen so much. Like, the pistol was like a super high-powered laser, so it was all about... It was for, like, precision shots. But it shook the screen so much that I missed every time because I couldn't... Even if I held... my cursor on an enemy, clicked it, and then didn't let go of the mouse, there would be enough shake that I ended up missing.
Huh.
And
I never actually tried the finisher with the pistol. I really only used the pistol in some situations.
Yeah.
Because ammo, at least in the difficulty I was playing, I just played on normal, and I never had a problem with ammo for the more powerful weapons.
I didn't really. The reason I would use a pistol is so I could dispatch the weak guys from afar.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the only reason I would use it. Otherwise, the shotgun was my main thing. Plasma rifle was good, but you ran out of ammo fairly quickly because of how fast it shoots.
Yeah, that's true.
And the arc was kind of annoying, except for specific points where it had like you said, it had its uses.
Sure.
I didn't actually try the finisher for the plasma rifle or the bazooka.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what those were. I was just like so underwhelmed. And the sword play like shook the screen so much I just couldn't stand using it.
I didn't really have a problem with the sword shaking the screen. It's just some areas in the game there's just too many bullets for the sword to be very viable. It's tough, or things are coming up behind you and just smacking you in the back while you're hitting other things with the sword. And so the sword was cool. Like, I like the idea that there's a sword in the game, and the design of the sword was kind of cool.
Yeah, I like the way it looked.
But yeah, it just...
It was there if you ran out of bullets, which never happened.
Yeah, pretty much.
So my biggest gripe of all, though, was this game was also inspired by Mega Man, I forgot to mention. They took from Mega Man a couple things, and one thing specifically was the most egregious thing, and that was Mega Man's checkpoint system. checkpoints in this game is what made the platforming puzzles so extremely frustrating, because I would get to a platform, I'd miss barely, fall into lava, and then I'd have to shoot through, go through another maze of these same shitty little enemies that I killed already. It made me not want to take chances, because I just didn't want to deal with having to go through the same cannon fodder over and over, because almost all the enemies were just that. They were just cannon fodder for the most part. And the checkpoint system that they're using, the checkpoints were so few and far between that, like I just said, I didn't take chances because I didn't want to go back and do a big, piece of the level again. It wasn't fun for me.
That's a good point. That did frustrate me as well, and I didn't even really think to bring it up. But yeah, I also experienced that. I had a point where, like, one of the levels, I feel like I got pretty far in. Like, I started the level for the first time, went through killing for maybe like 5 to 10 minutes, and then died. And was like, well, I'm sure I hit a checkpoint, and it took me back to the start of the level.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that was pretty frustrating, and that happened a few times.
Yeah, and there's no way to do any sort of save points. It's all checkpoint based, which was frustrating for me.
I will say that I did like the addition of cheat codes that were all in the same vein of the classic first-person shooter. So you did have your no clipping and your flying, so you could just fly up and then clip right through the walls and then just look at the entire level from above. And
that'd be fun.
As a kid, like, those games were too hard for me to actually get anywhere significant in them. So I would end up just doing that so I could see all the levels and just floating through nothingness, but then seeing everything and all the enemies moving around and all the areas that they're in. From, like, for some reason, that really takes me back. So being able to do that was really cool, experimenting with that in some of the levels I'd already finished.
Yeah, I actually didn't play around with the cheat codes at all. I think that does sound pretty neat, though.
Yeah, it had console commands, too, to activate the cheats, so that felt extra old school.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if I have much more to say about the game, to be honest with you. It just kind of...
there isn't much to say.
I thought the first boss was kind of neat, but once I figured out the trick to it, it wasn't that. And then the second boss was so disappointing.
All the bosses were kind of like that. They had a bit of a trick in terms of, like, they did an attack and you dodge it, and then you have your chance to attack them.
Yeah, and I think it was supposed to be influenced by Mega Man when it comes to its boss design, or at least that's what I
guess. But I feel like you could say... No, it did say that, actually. I think even on the official website.
Exactly, yeah, I think that's probably where I saw it.
The official game description, it said Mega Man-inspired bosses. I don't really understand that, because you could say any boss that has an attack pattern is a Mega Man-inspired boss.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
But, yeah, who knows? I don't know.
I forgot to mention the lives as well. In addition to using checkpoints, it used lives like Mega Man did, where you're even picking up the head of yourself.
Yeah,
just
that's
like you
true.
Picked up the helmet in Mega Man.
And if you die, if you only have 3 lives and you die 3 times...
You have to restart the whole level over again.
Yeah, so you don't go back to the last checkpoint. You go to the very start of the stage, which, I mean, there's so few checkpoints anyway that...
Yeah, I know, right?
but yeah, that had happened to me. I did get a game over once.
Yeah, that happened once to me as well. So yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Is there anything else specific you wanted to touch on?
No. Just I guess I'll just reiterate. I think that it's worth looking into the game if you're a big fan of classic first-person shooters and maybe the modded levels and stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Check it out. Definitely check out the modding community.
Maybe if it's on sale.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Don't forget to check out our website, SharcTank.com. That's Shark with a C.
Yeah. And our next episode, you're doing it with a guest, right?
Yes, our old friend George Weedman, who he was our guest on Name Your Game a while back. And
I don't remember the episode number for that, but you can find it.
7, 6? I don't know. Something like that. Anyway, yeah, just look for George Weedman, and we're playing The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, check it out, and, like, subscribe, comment if you want to. Otherwise, have a good night.
Bye.